Jeff from Charlotte hit us with this question. He said, I saw a lot of people making a huge deal about Oklahoma hiring Jim Nagy from the Senior Bowl as GM. I know the position is getting bigger, but on a scale of 1 to 10, what's the level of importance of having a top GM in college football, and what makes a GM great in our game? Well, the latter question there, I just think, is understanding the totality of college football, being able to see around the corner, being able to see from 50,000 feet, having working knowledge of multiple facets of college football. That's what makes a good GM. How important is a GM? It's a solid 7 and rising. And some people would argue it's already a 10 on the 1 to 10 scale. So there have been some big noteworthy moves. Colin is showing you a list of some of the notable GM hires from this past cycle. Chad Bowden at USC came there from Notre Dame. Huge move. Did you know Andrew Luck is the GM at Stanford now? Jim Nagy goes from running the Senior Bowl to being the general manager at Oklahoma. So these are just big time moves in college football. You got to change the way. If you want to know how to think about a college football general manager, you first have to know to change the way you think about college football. So the way you think about a college football organizationally, the way you think about college football organizationally our entire lives has been to think of the head coach, and then everything's beneath the head coach. Everything works downstream of the head coach. The head coach is making all the hiring and firing decisions aside from his own, and that's the way it is. And that's mostly kind of the way it still will be, except there's an entire other category over here on the org chart, and it's the general manager. And the funny thing about the way this is structured, which I'm not sure the public is picking up on yet, is that general manager in many cases is not answering to the head coach. That general manager is answering to the athletic director. Now here's why that's important. You've always trained your mind to believe that when a head coach is out, well, that means everybody's out. They just hit the dump button, the coordinators are gone, the recruiting staff's gone, strength and conditioning most of the time is gone. They just wipe the entire department out. New head coach comes in, he brings his own folks. We are entering a world now, never seen this before, but we're entering a world now where the general manager will outlive the head coach, especially in a situation maybe like Oklahoma or maybe like USC. I'm not suggesting either of those head coaches is on the hot seat, but in a general sense, just a principled sense, think about this. Let me cut in really quick and ask, look, prayer hands, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you think you're subscribed, check and make sure. Over 50% of you aren't. It's free, it doesn't sign you up for anything, and it helps us keep the show free, college football year-round, the way God intended it. All right, back to the clip. If you hire a guy like Jim Nagy, and he comes into Oklahoma, and you've got a head coach that's 3 or 4 years in, let's say 2 years later the head coach is not putting up results that are good enough, and it comes time to make a change. Jim Nagy's not going anywhere. Brent Venables is. Then you start talking like you do in the Sunday game, and you start asking, well, is Jim Nagy going to get to go hire his guy? This is all theoretical because it's kind of a new frontier. It used to be, who's the AD going to go hire? Well, now, what is it? Well, the answer is case to case, so it will vary depending on university. But some places, you'll have an athletic director who hires that general manager and tells that general manager, you're going to work day in and day out with that head coach, but you're answering to me. And I'm telling you, especially if there's a job opening, I'm telling you, you go hire your head coach. Now, think about how different that is in terms of dynamics. It's never going to happen at the University of Georgia. Kirby Smart's never answering to anyone other than his athletic director at Georgia. But other places could quickly approach an era where head coach answers to GM, who answers to athletic director. Just 3 years ago, even 3 months ago, there are a lot of folks who have watched the sport their whole lives who would have looked at that and said, that would never happen. Well, it's happening. It's happening. Now, whether that's good or bad, you can make your own call on that. I'm indifferent on it. Because it's too early. I'm just willing to wait and see the results. But that entire concept, the way you visualize a football program in your mind, that stuff's changing pretty radically. Maybe for the better, but at the very least changing pretty radically.